Should I call the meeting to order?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Great. Okay. So we have on our agenda, is there any discussion of any items not on the agenda? Anyone want to moderate that at all? No? Okay. So did everyone look at the minutes of February 5th? And does anyone have any?
Motion to approve minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, so that is passed. And so the public art map update, a demonstration from Public Art Archive.
Yes, can I give a quick intro?
Yes,
first?
please.
Yes. So as you all probably know, we currently have our public art map on a Google map, which was created by a former intern who has since moved on. They did a great job putting that map together, but just because of how it was built and hosted, we don't own or have full control over the platform. So this has created challenges in terms of accessing and maintaining the map over time. If you ever go visit it, it's often down, so we don't have full control over it. So I've been looking into different options, and in order to maintain full control of it, they're unable to just transfer the map to us. So we would have to rebuild it fully in Google Maps or something like GIS anyway. So it would be time-consuming, an effort to do that. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to just explore whether that we want to stick with Google Maps, or are there other solutions out there that might be a better fit? And in that process, I came across the Public Art Archive platform through the National League of Cities, which is a local government resource that is trusted and a lot of local governments turn to. So Public Art Archive itself is widely used by municipalities and arts organizations across the country. I had the opportunity to do kind of a preliminary demo with Lori Goldstein, who we have on our meeting today. And after meeting with her, I really feel like this tool has the potential to address a lot of the challenges we have with the current map. It has the ability to grow with us, I think, and it's also very cost effective, as you'll hear. So I invited Lori with Public Art Archive to provide you all a demonstration today on how it possibly could work for our public art map. I thought I'd maybe let her present first. You can ask any questions you might have of her, and then we can kind of cut her loose and just have discussion among our committee after that, if that works for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, Lori, I'll hand it on over to you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Is it okay if I screen share? I wasn't sure. Does every screen?
Yeah, we have screens. We can see you.
Okay, great. Is it possible to allow me to screen share from my end? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, she just did.
Never mind. Well, thanks for having me today. I had a great call a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks, with Rachel about your city and your public art collection that the city manages, as well as other collections of public art with the university and maybe the business districts that own and manage their own public art. So I appreciate the chance to come and talk to you today. I manage the Public Art Archive. We are a central repository for public art data and collections, mostly centered in the U.S., but we have a growing number of international examples. And our site is free to use, and it is available on any type of device. So it is desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile friendly. So people use us from the general public that are doing research or administrating public art collections, or members of the general public that are out and about on their phones, maybe looking around or wondering about public art in a particular community or city, use us too. We are a product of Creative West, which is one of the regional arts organizations. But again, we work with cities all over the country. We are not specific to the West, but we are based in Denver. As you can see here on your screen, this is our landing page. You are able to access artworks throughout the country by all different sort of filters and facets. I thought that we would start with looking at a particular collection. I'm pulling up Reno Public Art. Basically, what happens when a municipality wants to work with us is that they are able to use an import template. So it's basically a spreadsheet. It's something that a lot of organizations already use to manage their public art collection. And they send us the data and we import it into our site at no cost. So it does not cost anything to have access to all the features I'm going to show you right now. There are some additional paid engagement features that we call them that I can talk about briefly at the end. But just want to say that collaborating with us is entirely free. Basically, for example, Reno sent us their collection. They use a couple of our paid products, but what you're seeing here is just an example of what you get when we import your data. You get a nice landing page. It comes with its own sort of stable URL. So a lot of organizations sort of use their municipal websites to route traffic to their public art collection on this page. There's a nice image grid. You can show works that are on or off view. We work with a lot of organizations that have maybe temporary artworks, maybe want to show the history of those if they were removed, or maybe they're in storage for any particular time, but still want to provide public access to it. You can filter by artist. We'll talk a little bit more about collections, materials, placements. You can really sort of document, is this in a library? Is this in a park or a municipal building? Artwork types, sculptures, murals, commemorative art, functional art, all sorts of data facets that you're able to use. Year, city, theme. I talked with Rachel a lot about people like to sort of guide different tour routes around their city, maybe a kid-friendly tour based on artworks that are themed around animals. So there's a lot of different engagement capabilities with just the data that we're given. And then more specific to previous discussions, this all comes with an interactive public art map. So all of this capability is just pulling from the data that we are sent by the contributing organization. People can use it again on their phones. A lot like when you're using Google Maps, we have the capability where users can allow the location services. So that little blue dot that you use on Google can say, I'm here, but the artwork I want to see is there, and this is how you get there. You can sort of zoom in, you can click on artworks, and every individual artwork comes with its own landing page. Again, these are all stable URLs, so you can think about, a lot of organizations want, a landing page for artworks, or thinking about QR codes or ways to attract engagement. But in any case, multiple images, all of this information, again, is coming directly from the information that we are given on the spreadsheet. You get maps to the individual artworks, and then what we call sustained engagement pieces, which is more from the collection, and then artworks nearby. So in a case like Iowa City, there may be city-owned artworks kind of nearby the university-owned artworks. But the public doesn't necessarily always care. They just want to see where the artwork is on their next stop. And so kind of takes all those general public experiences and makes them in a sort of a more user-friendly application. Just to call out a couple things that Rachel and I talked about previously, she did mention that, because there may be sort of overlapping collections where, the university's collection may be an experience that you want to house on the platform. We do have works from the university already in the city. But I wanted to pull up an example, for instance, of a location search. So while you would want to use this to drive traffic to your city collection, people would also be able to just do a location search of artworks around Iowa City, and it would pull up all the artworks in and around. For instance, I've pulled up Huntsville here. There's a lot of overlapping collections, and so people can really experience all of the art despite who owns it. But of course, every artwork has its own attribution, so you will be able to find which collection it belongs to and who owns it, which would be important to your city. So I can take a minute there and see what kind of questions come up, or Rachel, if there's something specific you want me to address.
I have a question. So we have permanent works, but we also have temporary works. We do a 2-year sculpture walk, and so I'm just curious about that. Like, we wouldn't want, how would that be, something like that be treated versus the public work or permanent work, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just as like a general sort of umbrella rule, you are able to edit and update artworks as much as you want on the Public Art Archive. So we would create a process with Rachel, or, if there's other people that would collaborate on this. And so it's very easy to say we want to unpublish those temporary works because they're no longer on view at that location, especially for the rotating sculpture walk. There are instances where organizations that we've worked with have wanted to keep the digital record of those artworks on the Public Art Archive, but say to the public they're no longer on view. That's entirely up to you, but we do have an off view tag, which gives a couple signals to any member of the general public to say that this artwork is no longer on view, as in it's off view, it's not currently at its location, and it's a grayed out pin. So it's sort of entirely up to you. The other cool thing that we can do, and that we've done with a lot of like rotating sculpture programs, is that you are able to add an additional, so there may be public art in Iowa City or Iowa City's public art collection. And then you can create additional what we call sub collections. So it could be temporary sculpture walk 2026 through 2028. And you can have your own landing page that is specific to, this is an example of signal boxes that go on view in a similar way for like a 2-year period in Reno. But you could have your own landing page and a map that generates specifically to those rotating artworks. So that's just another possibility, and could kind of give that public engagement piece its own digital space to, exist within your collection, but also have a navigational route to just show the artworks that are temporarily on view. And then they could be removed from the Public Art Archive when they leave the city, or they can be updated to show an off view tag. That's kind of up to the organization.
I have another question. I have a question just about the logistics and the changing over process, and if it would be just, invisible labor of what are the photo restrictions and criteria? Is it flexible, or would we have to generate all new photos?
You would not have to generate all new photos. We use whatever you can give. If the photos are very high resolution, we have the tools to make them better optimized for web. So things like a web page taking forever to load because you have a 20 megabyte image. We can optimize that way. There are often opportunities when we do this kind of work that we put the images up, and then artists or members of the community may reach out and say, I have a great photo of this, in which case we would send it to the administrator of the program and sort of let let you guys make the decision on whether you want to update the images. But we work with 1 to multiple images of an artwork. And the other piece of that is that the rights holder is always given the courtesy information. We operate under fair use, so none of this can be used for commercial use. And so a lot of times whoever has taken the photograph has given over the image rights to the city. And oftentimes the photographer wants to be credited. Both can be listed. It's up to the administrative body as well.
Great, thank you.
I just have a quick question I'm assuming everything's screen reader friendly and ADA compliant on your website as well.
Yes, our organization, we manage a lot of tech products specifically built for the art world, and accessibility is sort of our highest priority, especially right now with federal laws and regulations. So we're always updating, we're always sort of putting funds towards the development of ADA accessibility. So things like screen readers, alt text, all of that is happening across our site.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's great.
Do you have other questions
Any
before
other?
she goes on? Okay, I think you can keep moving along, Lori.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
So what I've shown you, again, is entirely free. So if tomorrow it was like, we want to start generating this entirely free to use, a lot of organizations use the Public Art Archive as sort of their front end way for the public to engage with their public art collection. It may be linked on a municipal webpage, landing page, Chamber of Commerce, tourism, all those types of things. However, sometimes we have organizations we work with that the city is very strict on branding, and there are sort of 2 things that we offer that have a cost incurred. Basically, one of those is what we call an embeddable map. So should the city say, we like all of this work on here, but we really want the visual of the map to be placed on our municipal website in the same way that your current Google map is being used. For $250 a year, you can take this map. We give you an embed code and you can embed it on your municipal website. It will update the same. It will work the same as it does on our site, but it does give the visual and the interactivity of just the map piece in case that is something of interest. There have also been organizations that want to embed this entire sort of collection visual, not just the map, but the whole, as I'm highlighting Reno Public Art and down, they want all of that embedded in their external website. We offer that if that's of interest for $500 a year. It's again a collection embed. We still do all the data work on our end and make all the updates. But again, this has a lot to do with cities that are very specific about their branding and that they want this information to appear within their webpage, and they don't want to necessarily just have a button that links out to it. It's totally optional. Everything will still appear on the Public Art Archive. It's just an additional option. Should you create what we call sub-collections, so kind of what I was talking about with if you had like the rotating sculpture program as an additional collection, you can make as many as you want. Here's an example of Reno Art on the River. They really kind of take advantage of this so that when they are engaging their public for people that want to take a tour of Reno Art on the River versus Art in Parks versus the Signal Box program, they're able to generate individual maps and sort of guide users to these particular subsets of their collection. So again, that is everything that you see from this Reno Public Art down. And then the other option is what we call a collection showcase page. there are a lot of other organizations we work with that have very little flexibility in their municipal website, especially when it comes to talking about and demonstrating all that their public art collection does, all that their public art program does. You know, sometimes you can be limited in what you can really build on those municipal sites and what you can change over time. So organizations ask us to build a custom landing page for their public art collection. They give us the information that they, want to feature. We update it as often as they want. Here's an example, another one from Reno, where they put a lot of time into their public art master plan. They want that easily accessible. They want, when people search for things in public art, they want these pages to come up. We do a lot of SEO work. We can embed the map. We can embed featured images, and then whatever types of collections that you want to feature. All of this is kind of stemming from a mixture of data within their collection and then custom text and just whatever the collection wants us to do. And then we build upon that and change it as often as they like. And it really gives them the flexibility to sort of portray their public art program in a way that is just a little bit more of a customized experience. And so this piece is $750 a year, and it also includes the embeddable collection. So all of those are add-ons. They're not necessary to work with the Public Art Archive and get full use of what we offer for free, but they're just additional, what we call collection engagement tools for those that kind of want to build up the engagement and customize the experience a little bit more. Any questions about any of those?
Just the sub collections, if we were to have the Riverwalk and say a mural and say, just other permanent pieces, is that included, or that's one of the extra costs?
That's included. So that's essentially just the sort of the way that you would catalog your data. Or we can start by sort of the umbrella collection and then, discuss. We're always happy to help talk through workflows, but it could be part of, we like to call the umbrella collection. So sort of the aerial view, and then do a sub collection of art on the river or art around downtown. And that just is a way to organize data so that you get these sort of unique landing pages, but there's no extra cost to using that.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions here, Lori, but this was super helpful. I can tell everyone has found this very valuable. So we really appreciate you hopping on to share more about this with us. So now we'll just give the committee some time to talk through and discuss, and I'll circle back with you, but we can cut you loose. And thank you so much for hopping on and joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Okay, so should we discuss it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so do people have any thoughts or?
Seems like a pretty valuable tool to have and easy to navigate and pretty straightforward, I guess. What do you guys think about the budgeting and paying for the different aspects of it?
Yeah, I think the embedded map is really necessary. I think that that's a real asset for us. And I would be interested, though, in getting feedback on, the other costs, if that's what we need, or if we're okay with that linking to the city site, which has our strategic plan, embedded in that, or would you want it all located in that one site?
I think it'd be nice to have it on the city site because Iowa City's the city of the arts, right? So I think it'd be valuable to spend some money to showcase that.
Right now, I'm just showing you how it is. It is just a link. we don't have it embedded. We can change that. I just wanted to show you.
It can certainly start as a link, but like, you know, I think long term it'd be good to have it embedded.
I like the embedded map. Everything else, I didn't think we needed necessarily. Is like I don't mind it linking to their database for all the other information. I think it's kind of nice actually because then local people travel and they go, oh yeah, the public art website, it has other cities. Like I think it's actually kind of nice to have that in one spot.
I think it's really nice, and it's a benefit to the artists.
Yeah.
And I also really I appreciated that we could do past sculpture walk. You know, we could include that information too, without, you know, even though it's not current.
Yeah. No, this looks like a great solution. Next time I go anywhere else, I'm going to look up their public art, see if they're on there. So, but I do think the embedded map would be the one sort of add feature that would be nice for us to have.
And that's $250 a year, right? So that is very
It's
reasonable.
all very
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
guess what's
any-
Iowa City's take on having it embedded to their website and kind of the cohesiveness on like that? Like she was saying, for like the $500 plan,
Yeah.
the next level up, is that something that Iowa City is rigid on, or?
Some maybe. I'd have to talk to our communications office. I think they would be open to it, but you know, if they have certain concerns or considerations that we're not thinking of, I can share those back out with you. But
Well, yeah, because I'm wondering if we couldn't, and I don't know, I can bite off more than I can chew on any
Can't we
given
all?
day. But you know, if we were going to pay for the larger thing, it seems like it could become a really beneficial umbrella for the city. And by the city, I'm talking about, you know, Riverside Theater and PS1 and the Englert is also being, I don't know if that would be a possibility.
well, it does raise the question of partnerships, which I talked to Lori about quite
Right.
extensively because I wanted to understand, which she confirmed, that we would still be the ultimate entity managing the public art. So they have a form on their website where members of the public can suggest a piece to add, but they won't just accept that. They would run it all through us. And likewise, I talked about, you know, like the downtown district's collection and the university's collection, and same thing. They have a pretty small staff, so, you know, if I uploaded a piece of art and the downtown district uploaded the same one because we both had it on our lists, then they would know that, and so they could consolidate and clean the data so it is all consistent. I have reached out and shared this resource with both the downtown district and the university, and I just haven't heard back yet from either. I don't think we need them to participate for us to, but it would be really nice if everyone's art collection is on there. It'd be a big benefit, I think.
Is the hospital's collection included in talking to the university, or is that another reach out?
question,
Because I feel like that's a really great one.
Project Art.
Yeah, so that's what's on there now.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's everything, because that does change over more frequently. Is that right?
Well, there's two different, there's Project Art and there's the Changing Shows, but they have an extensive collection in the hospital. There's also the public art collection on campus, which it would be great. I mean, there's Arneson's, there's a lot of really great art, and most of that is designated to the buildings. And so having a comprehensive map of that would be really
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, hopefully I'll hear back from the university and I can clarify, but that maybe someone from their staff had already started at some point, because there's some of that on there now. Be great.
My only pitch for possibly embedding at the kind of mid-tier is that it would be really nice on the page to have art come forward. Yes, a map is interactive and it's going to get people who see it interacting with it, but I do feel like coming to the public art page and seeing tiles of art would be kind of a lovely feature.
And so that would be the 250 plus the 500. And then the major site was 750, so it would have been, if we did everything, my understanding is that it would be 1,500.
I think it's steps. So if you do the 500, that would include that whole database, so then the map is on there. And if you do the 750, you get a custom landing page with also all of that. So it's not stacked, it's different tiers.
Okay, so that's, okay. Well, that's very attractive. And I was really happy because I just know a lot of like websites and webmasters. I just thought, oh my gosh, is Rachel going to have to reconfigure all these, every photograph of every piece of public art? Because that's daunting to think about. So I was really happy that, and one of the ones they had was a 400 megabyte image, which is way more than most websites would have let you have. So I was like, oh, that's good. That's a huge image, by the way. So by webmasters standards, so yeah. So that seemed really great. What is your leaning of as the person that's going to have to interface with this?
Sure. Well, a couple of other notes from my conversation with her was it will be a high effort, I think, on the front end to get all that into the spreadsheet. We have most of it in our Google Map now, so we can get an export of a lot of it, and then it's just a matter of like adding in all those additional layers we don't have now for the filtering, like the collections and all of that. So that's a little bit of a lift, but Public Art Archive will what they call clean the data for me. So I provide kind of that rough draft of data, and then they format it to all be consistent across all of the artworks. And they would do that with university and downtowns too, if they participated. So it's very consistent across all those filtering. So that's a big benefit, and in my opinion, worth that $500 amount a year just alone. They do allow us to update it as often as we would like, and it's just a matter of us sending it to them. I think one of the main risks I identified would just be that, if this ever were to go away, we'd have to start over, but we would never lose that data because I would always, have that spreadsheet that I would be sending to them whenever there is an update. So at that time, we just have to rebuild a map in Google or GIS or whatever it may be. But that was one of the biggest risks I could identify. I did ask how they were funded, since it's also affordable. Some of these annual subscriptions are a piece of the funding. They do also offer a, I don't know, what's it called? It's like a CRM, I guess, that can, track the life cycle of an artwork. So kind of like what our asset management system would already do. So that's much more expensive, and some people use that. And in the future, if you wanted to, we could explore that, I suppose. But that's a piece of their funding. And then they're also funded by this Creative West group who runs the cafe page that you were telling us about, Erin.
That seems like something that if the university was involved, they would be interested in, but I don't think that would be.
Yeah, I just, because it was so affordable, I was curious how it was funded. I thought you might as well.
And do you know how long they've been around, or?
I don't know.
But $750 is about the cost of a site, a yearly site for just thinking of an individual and an artist. If your website would cost, with your domain would cost about that.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
They don't host ads, do they? That's not part of their good.
Yay.
I would worry about the content of ads if we were directing people to a
Yeah,
Iowa
that-
City owned site. So that's, yeah.
I think an argument for having that, at least that mid-tier $500 level on our site is, one, yes, I like the comment, it brings the art to the page as well, and it just makes it that much more accessible without having to click on something else. So it's one click less to get to information, and we all know every click reduces the number of people actually going to it by quite a bit. So for that amount, it would seem reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like with the other major site, we could grow if we want to, but right now we have that information on the city site, right? It'll be linked
yeah.
to this
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah. You do have the ability, which I could foresee this, you do have the ability to create, like you can do what she showed with the city of Reno doing a nicer landing page for their whole collection. You could also do the same for some of these sub-collections. So like the Literary Walk would be one that comes to mind where that may benefit from its own sub-collection page. And so, we don't have to decide all of that at once, but we can start wherever you feel is
But
appropriate.
to have the sub-collections, is that the major site at $750?
You get the sub collect. You
that part
you
of
can
the free?
designate sub collections free through the
Right,
filtering
okay.
tools. If you want like a fancy page that really provides background about them, then you pay the $7.50.
Okay. What are your thoughts about the tier situation? What are your thoughts about the tier situation? It seems like it's going to be a lot of work just to get it going.
Yeah, once I provide the data to them, she said it's about a 2-week turnaround to get it uploaded. So I'll probably would need more than 2 weeks to get the data to them. I think honestly, any of the costs that they've identified seem reasonable to me, depending on what your goals are. So wherever you land, I think we can work that into the public art budget. Just keep in mind, of course, it would be an ongoing annual expense. But the tool itself, I feel optimistic about. I think it could solve a lot of the current problems we have, and then help it just be much more interactive and usable for the community.
So I'm kind of thinking maybe that mid-tier, the 500 per year that embeds the site and the map, includes a map.
Yeah, my only hesitancy for not just going in all in is like, if we did the tier, does that just create more labor? Like to add?
I don't believe it does.
No? Okay.
I think it's just you're getting more inclusive. Everything's tied together more, easier for you. I think we just go for all of it. In this time in the world, I think sharing art is very important and having it be accessible. So
So you think the top tier?
Spend all the money.
I mean, this all does hinge on the city of Iowa City being okay with us putting this on our site, right?
Yeah, I can talk. I've floated it past our communications director, and she feels like it's also going to be a positive tool. We didn't talk about like the custom landing pages. She knows it's an option, so I can talk through all that. If there's any like major problems, I can bring that back to you. But
that 750 that includes the embeddable map and the embedded collections, like,
well, I think it would.
because that's 750, the 500.
The 750 provides the landing page, and I don't know if you get the embed code of the landing. Like, I don't know if the landing page can be embedded,
Okay.
because it kind of, you know what I mean? So I think if you get 750, you are linking out to another site. I could be wrong. Does anyone feel like I'm wrong?
That's
my
what it
understanding
seemed
is once
like
you
to
spend
me.
that,
Yeah.
that level, then it's all kind of tied together there. I was exploring the pages previous to this, and
Right,
that was
I
my
did too.
understanding of it.
It's certainly tied together. I just don't
Okay.
know if like then that landing page is embedded on our website, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a redirect. We're in the process. We're going to update the website. So I don't know how much effort communications is going to put in to embed stuff on existing pages versus embedding it on the future page. So that might be a question for Shannon.
I guess my thought is looking at this page right now, it's very cold and not accessible for warm art and public art. So I'd like to see a landing page that showcases that a little bit more so.
It's my students' bureau.
Because just like the whole Iowa City page is just very singular and monotone. So I think to have it have some more pop and zest would only be beneficial.
One thought
I
might,
think that's the intent of the rework of the website, is my understanding, is that part of it. But there again, that's the process they've started. The public information request has gone out as far as the surveys. So they're in the process of gathering information of what can make this better. But I just don't know how much maintenance they're going to want to put into what's here
until they're ready.
until
to do that.
they're ready to make. And I don't know what Shannon's timeframe is on the actual rollout of the new system. So that's.
And so, sort of one thought I have is, what if we did go ahead and approve the 750 for the major site, so that then we could get input, and if Shannon thought it wasn't quite what we needed, it could be dialed back. If it would help to support their efforts, it would already be established. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm less concerned with it being embedded. And sometimes, especially when she was talking about like laptops, tablets, mobile, when you have a site embedded in another site, the formatting gets wonky, or I don't know.
If it takes care of that, that's great.
I had no problem with what they were showing for Reno, where it's on their page, but it's the city has its own, landing page, and you could click on all the collections. I guess to me, it doesn't matter if it says Iowa City in the corner or if it says Public Art Archive in the corner. It was a nice website, so I'd be okay going with the higher tier, and then that's one less new web page they have to make.
Well, they would have to approve it, right? They would have the final say.
Yeah.
It's a,
Would it make sense to come to a consensus on if we want to move forward with at least the free version first, and then contingent on questions Rachel will ask of other city staff, coming back and examining it again at that point, maybe one of the next meetings, and see if we wanted to go with one of the other packages at that point, or would everyone rather do some sort of motion that would allow for that if contingent on what answers come back? There's a couple of different ways we can do it.
that was my thinking, so that it's not going back and forth. It would be, we've approved this based upon the communications department finding it helpful and beneficial to their efforts also. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it will. I think what I would really need to know today is if, in general, you want to move forward in some form or fashion with using Public Art Archive, because then I can at least start building that data spreadsheet for them, and then by the time April will be here before you know it, and so then we can have a quick discussion again at maybe our April meeting about what communications division advises, and
Yeah.
does that sound like a plan?
Somebody want to make a motion?
A motion to spend on the higher tier. I guess I don't know how to phrase it, but
Well, to the motion, to move forward with it.
motion to move forward with spending the $750 tier.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion about that? So it would be, though, that we want to move forward, we want to move forward with this, and then depending on the feedback from the city, to determine really the tier that we would go with. Like they'll
Yeah,
have the
totally.
final say. Is that?
Yep.
And is that okay? Is that clear enough in our motion as it is now?
You can make a motion to
Amend the motion?
I suppose the motion could be to approve the budget costs, to approve a maximum budget cost of $750 to move forward with a public art archive.
Well, then I motion to approve the maximum spending on the top tier.
Okay.
I'll second. Second again, yeah.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Then the motion passes. Great. And so now we have a community-initiated public art application from the Undergrad Student Government Sustainability Mural. And so this is an application from USG Sustainability Chair, which I think is Olivia here with us, right?
Yep.
And so that they're asking to do a mural on a city parking ramp, and they're not asking for any funding, but PAC will have final approval over location and design, since it will ultimately become a part of our long-term collection. And so, and I think that some further information has been gained regarding the where.
Somewhat. Our parking, so the application that's included in your agenda packet has changed a little bit. Olivia and I have met, and our parking and transportation director is interested in a mural locating in one of the parking ramps. She has unfortunately been out sick, so we haven't nailed down a specific location. But Olivia and I have talked through different budget scenarios, design and artist procurement options, those possible locations, and just a little bit of her timeline. So I can let her kind of present on the project itself and seek any specific feedback that she'd be looking for you all on as you consider this.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. My name's Olivia Arkfeld. I'm the Director of Sustainability for the undergraduate student government, like we talked about. And so my role is essentially there's 8 committees inside USG, and one of them is sustainability. So I'm the director of that. Then I have chair, and then my committee is a bunch of senators, and we work on initiatives that make campus more sustainable and surrounding areas like Iowa City. And I created a platform when I started to run on, and part of it was the sustainability mural. So this has been, I just recently got in contact with you guys, but I've been trying multiple different avenues, and I'm so thankful for you guys for hearing me out because it's been a long time coming. But my major is environmental science and my minor is poli-sci. So this is a cool, what's it called? Like combination of those, I guess. And how this mural started is by seeing how many murals you guys have been funding and allowing to be put up in Iowa City. I've just seen like so many more throughout my time here at Iowa, which I will be graduating this year. So it's kind of like my last hurrah almost for this mural. And I guess the idea behind it is just to have a mural that tells a story and reflects and reminds us that about the urgency of the climate crisis we are in, and just like reminders to be sustainable. And I think the Black Joy one on the other parking ramp, the really big one, I think that was like a great example. Obviously, we don't have the funds to fund that big of a one, but just like the message behind it, it's simple, it's pretty, and it gets your attention. And I really want those principles added to the sustainability mural. Currently, our goal budget after talking to Rachel is $8K, which is a work in progress because of how like recent that conversation was. I have definitely 4.5K secured, hopefully 6K, and then I'm waiting to hear back from a few other people on that. So if you have any recommendations, I'm open to it. But I think after the email Rachel sent me, I'll be able to provide that to my financial director and she can provide more funding. But that's kind of like besides the point. And then I think it'd be a great point for advocacy from the university's end in like relation to Iowa City. For example, I'll be holding a One Sustainable Iowa conference late April, inviting all colleges and universities to Iowa here. And I think that'd be a great way to promote how well Iowa City blends with the university. It'll be a great way to promote your organization, the Muralist, and our collective dedication for permanent environmental advocacy. And then we have quite a few other ways to promote this as well through our social media, website, newsletters to students, etc. So it's kind of like a rundown of how that started and where we're at. Does anyone have any questions on what I've talked about?
Olivia, do you want to talk about, in your initial application, you had proposed this design concept, and I think maybe your approach to a design and an artist has changed. Do you want to talk about what your preferred process is?
Yes. So originally, when my timeline was like much longer, we were going to have a University of Iowa art student competition. So we'd allow them to send in designs and then we'd feature those designs with the Muralist. But considering the timeline and how that would limit the pool of Muralists that would be creating someone else's artwork, essentially, we're just going to move ahead with a press release and then just calling for Muralists to send in their qualifications and maybe concepts once we figure out the budget, and just move ahead with that so it's a bit quicker because I graduate in May and that I know is kind of really tight, but that was like kind of the timeline I was hoping for originally.
And would you be okay if the mural was still underway in May, or are you very determined to have it completed by May?
I'll really take anything I can get at this point. I think, honestly, I will probably be here this summer. My lease doesn't end. So I just wanted to see it completed before I like moved out of Iowa City for other future pursuits and stuff. So if it needed to go,
Oops.
that's fine. And if that helped our budget too, in terms of student government and whatnot, I would be more than happy to go that route as well.
And through the university, have you reached out to the Office of Community Engagement? OCE?
I have not. Should I?
Yes.
We do have some muralists that we can recommend, but also, I mean, if you're going to put the call out, that is fine too. But I am part of that office, so we can help.
Yeah, I would definitely love to contact them as well. And if we think it'd be faster, obviously we haven't done like the press release yet. If you have someone in mind and that would be a quicker way to go and more efficient, I'm okay doing it that way too. It's just whatever you guys think is best. And I know we talked about Rachel. We don't want to do a press release and then go with someone else type of thing. So yeah, just whatever you guys think. I'm definitely open to suggestions.
I think it's really up to you as the funder for the project, and of course, we would be, the location is very important, and that has to be approved by the city, and then our organization would be approving the final design, which you would come with the muralist and present to us at a later meeting, which
Okay.
that would be April. It would be your goal. So it would get approved in April, right?
It could occur in April or May. We meet the first Thursday of every month, so we would meet the first week in April and the first week in May.
So those would be sort of your target goals. I think you can do both things. I think you could, because you are a student, you represent a student organization. Those are resources that you can draw from. And so contacting the Office of Community Engagement would be definitely something to do. The School of Art and Art History, but they also work very closely with that office. And then if you also wanted to put a call out, that would be fine too.
Okay. That sounds good.
And just, I love the mural you're citing, but that's a huge, that took a long time. That was
No,
quite an
100%.
extensive project, and so I got really nervous right away because I was like, oh, I know a lot of the people that worked on it, and I know that it was a lot of students worked on that. It was a lot of, and the scaffolding alone is very, very expensive.
Yeah, I was going to ask is
I don't-
what you have allotted for different materials and your different fees for the process along the way with that budget you have. Like you have like the paint supply costs versus like the scaffolding and all those various things you'll need to
Well,
complete the job.
I would think that's what you would offer the muralist, because they're the professionals who can figure that out. Sometimes just offering a flat fee to the artist, a budget for them, because they have the
Well, and I
experience.
think with your timeline too, you want to go with someone who's done a lot of murals. I mean, you have a clear kind of message in mind, and I think we could maybe find an artist that can work with you on that, and you can look at a design and give feedback and make sure that it's something that you want as well. But
It's also a situation where a faculty could supervise students. I think of Allie.
yeah, or Allie can paint the mural. That's what
I think we should give the opportunity to a lot of other young artists in the city to paint the mural because she's got a lot of ground covered already. There's a lot of other artists in this town, and we should give them the opportunity, especially the undergrads.
So you would be in favor of seeing a call put
Yeah, I'd like
out?
to see a call out, and just that's the point of murals, and using the space to have new voices have a voice, as opposed to having the same people repeat. And
Right.
It's kind of the same thing we were talking about with the sculptures.
Yeah, but I would definitely recommend having the budget be the constraints of the artist, because that's going to change what they're going to do. Scaffolding is really expensive, and you don't have the site identified yet.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at, is the site is going to really determine a lot of that budgeting, so.
We ultimately know it'll be a wall and a parking ramp. So while that will differ in general, you kind of know what kind of surface you're working on. General surface area could probably scale based on what final budget Olivia can come up with and what the artist would charge, I suppose. So I do think a parking ramp location, while the specific site is very important for your approval, I do think it allows us to be flexible in a way some sites don't.
I guess I'd just like to see more artists represented than just the same pool over and over again.
The one I mentioned, the Black Joy one, by no means did I expect it to be that big or like straight up the side of a building either. It's just like more of the message and like the design of it is really more of what I was referring to.
You just really want a
to clear that
clean design and minimal text, right?
Yeah, it's really budget dependent. I think most of this is budget dependent at this point. But yeah. I shared a slideshow of like designs I found online originally with my application. I'm not sure if that's available to you guys, or I could screen share and show it, just some that I liked. If you guys needed to see that as well, or I can
Do you want to see that?
have Rachel pass it on as well. But
I didn't get that through your application, so if
Yeah.
you want to see it, if you could share, that'd be great.
yeah, let me get that pulled up.
One thing, just while she's pulling it up, I know we have certain requirements that we put on our, for the matching grant application. There's a paragraph of just like requirements to be approved as a city project or on city property. Like there's certain things you can't have or can have, as part of your art, and whatever that language needs to be, just including it in the original call so that we don't, whatever artist put them through multiple revisions, like they have all their sort of requirements for city public art included in there.
Rachel would help with that.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are just obviously not budget attuned at all, but just kind of like the messages behind them and like vibrant, and just incorporating like a bit of wildness into it as well, and then like a simple message that like says a lot, kind of. And these are just like things I found on Google, but so like, where to go? Like this one, the light bulb one, I really like as well. I think that one, it kind of gets to the point without having to say a lot as well.
Yes, I see a lot of ideas and styles. It just depend on who the artist is that you get and how that's conveyed through that process.
Yeah.
So Olivia, if we go the route of a call for artists, and you assume it's, 1 or 2 weeks till we can get that out, and then 2 weeks for a response, is that appropriate? And then selection and kind of working with the artist to create the design, you are looking at, a month and a half probably at the quickest to getting a design ready to be installed. Does that sound appropriate to those who have more experience?
Well, I think a minimum of a month. If she wanted to go the route of advertising, I'm thinking of the art library every year does a call for a student to design a bookmark, which is a much smaller project, but that's about getting the word out. And if you're interested in working, you can also do your own advertisement. And if it was approved, you would definitely have to work with Rachel because there are certain language that has to be included regarding accessibility and whatnot. But you could do your own advertising in going to the libraries, places where you can hang flyers. So that would be possible too.
To advertise the mural call.
To advertise
what you're
looking for an
saying?
artist.
Okay.
And I think, there's so many different ways to go. If you want an artist who's overseeing that has a lot of experience, or if you want an undergraduate, I don't know.
I guess it makes me nervous because it seems like you've got a grand idea, but you don't have the artist to do it yet, and that's really what is going to make everything happen. And I'd like to see the artist have a little more kind of skin in the game on wanting to make it happen, because this is kind of just giving an opportunity to pay an artist to paint an idea rather than share something they're passionate about personally, if that makes sense.
It sounds like it'll be collaborative with them coming together with this idea about sustainability.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not designing it and telling them what to do. It's more of like, I would like.
But I think you should design
sustainable
it because you're
mural.
passionate about the idea. I think you should have some input about the art.
Well, she can have input without designing it. I mean,
Working.
you're going to be clear about what the message is supposed to be, and the artist
that
that
makes
is
you an artist right there by the message. Sharing the message, dictating the message makes you the artist.
Well, but a lot of murals are collaborative. Like Oracle's, there were 2 people working on the design, and then there was a muralist, and then there were 2 other people also working. There was John Engelbrecht and Lois Arthur working on that. So, so it does take, I think most murals, because they need to be community oriented. And you've come up with a theme, and it would be a realistic expectation to have someone come up with 3 ideas and then discuss them with you.
And putting that call out, I think you'll get a response. And if there's an artist that you think that you can see it through with them, then, you can move forward. If not, then.
Because $8,000 is not a good budget. I mean, that's a doable. It's just not as big, and it can't involve scaffolding because that's insurance and it's very expensive. There's liability with scaffolding.
So in order to help maybe move this conversation forward, I think the first question we have is, in general, are you supportive of this project as a public art project, meaning it will eventually become a part of our collection, and I will be providing Olivia staff time to assist with like the call or other coordination aspects. Okay,
Yep.
so I have a nodding of heads of that.
Yeah.
So then I think it's just direction on it, how you would prefer that she procure that artist is. I heard the call for artists. If the interest is in getting like a newer or emerging artist, we could also try to connect her with those who haven't done a major art project yet but are interested in it. Whichever direction you prefer.
If we went that route, though, I would prefer that they are in consult with someone who does know, because those cement walls do need preparation, and the preparatory of those walls so that the paint doesn't flake, that you get a good adhesion is very important.
Yeah. And to pay a mentor, as we know, will add costs. So maybe is the call for artists what you prefer, and see what.
Well, I think putting forth a call is
I think just putting a call toward the artist would make the artist come to the project rather than bringing the project to an artist. Because as an artist, if someone came to me and said they had a budget to pay me, I would always say yes. I want the artist to come to the project and want to be passionate about it, is kind of what I'm getting at by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the theme is important to convey in the call, and that theme will attract the artists that want to contribute to that theme, and they're going to be that much more invested in the project and willing to work towards the overall goals or the original goal of it. So I think that's a smart route. And I know there's multiple ways to put that call out. I think we have it fairly streamlined with what Rachel's done in the past and what the city does and the reach of our press releases and things like that. So time-wise, I think that would be probably a pretty efficient, fast, tried and true method that a lot of the artists around the area, whether they've worked on one of our projects before or not, would be kind of clued into and watching for on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm. And so it does sound like, in general, we are supportive of this project. And it seems like it's a very generous project in that it's not coming with a financial ask. And I think that we have had an initiative of murals, and they do enhance our parking garages.
Mm.
And so, do we want to approve this request, or is there a
I don't think you
motion?
need a
Does
motion,
that
as
need
long
it?
as I have the direction. I'll keep working with Olivia to move it forward as on her timeline and ours, maybe compromise. And then hopefully by the April meeting, we'll for sure have a site identified and possibly even an artist.
That'd be exciting.
But we'll have you approve that design either in April or May. Does that sound good? Olivia, did you have other questions or comments?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that covered all my questions on it.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll be in touch with you, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too.
Thanks.
My gosh, she's senior year and she's doing that work. That's
Very
really
ambitious.
impressive.
Yeah.
Cool.
That time.
Okay, and so the Hello Lamppost pilot proposed public art activation.
Yes, we are getting low on time, so I'll try to go through this quickly. But I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity we have. So, Hello Lamppost, I'll kind of explain what this is, but the idea is to use an existing technology that the city is piloting in other ways and try to apply it to our public art program. So kind of the driving goals behind this concept is, looking through our strategic plan and just our smaller budget that we have to work with every year, we have really been focused on elevating those artworks we already have rather than always focusing on commissioning new pieces. And so I think this tool could be one way we do that and just re-engage the public with different artworks that they're maybe walking by every day and not really engaging with. Again, allows us to add more public art opportunities to the public without necessarily adding new pieces or additional cost. And then again, I think it's a low stakes way to test this tool and then see if it's something we want to use in other ways or even other city services. So Hello Lamppost itself is the name I don't know if you call it a software or a platform, but it's a digital tool that allows users to either text a prompt or scan a QR code, and then they start to engage in a conversation. So step one is, they scan the code, and then Hello Lamppost responds and starts the conversation. From there, it will offer like different options for the user to figure out what they're interested in and how they want that conversation to proceed. And I'll show an example of this. And then it just continues the conversation along. So this would be maybe like an example. You set up different routes on the back end that can help drive the user through the conversation. So if they texted hello public art, then perhaps the Hello Lamppost would respond and say, hi, looks like you're near one of Iowa City's public artworks. How can I help? Reply with a number. 1, learn about the artwork. 2, discover other art nearby. 3, take a short public art tour. Or 4, share your thoughts about this piece. And then the person can respond with whatever they want to do. So let's say they do 1, and then it provides information about what art piece they're looking at, when it was installed maybe, and then they give them another prompt to continue that conversation. Do you want to hear more about this piece? Do you want to see another artwork nearby? So that's kind of the idea with these different conversation routes that it could provide. And we can come back to these. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to kind of go through quickly. We have used this in the past in other ways. So the downtown district used it for their large bunny artwork. And so the users were able to kind of like communicate with the bunnies in a way. And then we also used it for our Dubuque Street reconstruction project. When that was happening, people could understand what was happening, when the project would be done, and then also, ask for information about the businesses who were impacted during that time to try to help ensure people still knew those were available. So we have some other examples too, but those are just a couple. So we do have experience using it. So the proposal for the use of it with public art would be a 6-month pilot. So we would aim to launch this spring and then reevaluate in the fall. This timeline would help us capture some peak foot traffic times. We'd hopefully capture graduation weekend, all the summer festivals and events, and then depending on how it's going, we could decide if we even wanted to extend it into that football season where you're getting lots of foot traffic as well. Hello Lamppost recommended the 6-month timeline. They think that's what's necessary to get the amount of data to really evaluate like what people are interested in and what direction we want to keep taking it, if we do at all. So we would recommend thematically activating 3 to 5 of the public artworks, and this could be providing information about the art, providing directions or suggestions for other art, delivering like civic messaging of some kind. So I'll show you examples on the next slide, and then collecting feedback if we're interested in that. So kind of the two ideas we had to start with would be Irving Weber. And the Iowa City Public Library has a lot of research on, his writings and historical information that he has collected over the years. And so they have agreed that if you wish to move forward with the project, they could help curate that. And so an individual could go to the Irving Weber statue, scan the QR code, and then engage in a conversation where they could learn about history of Iowa City. It would be important that we don't personify him. That would be something we want to make sure we don't do in order to stay compliant with all the artist rights laws and also likeness laws. Another idea we had would be in partnership with the Climate Action Division. We have a lot of different artworks that have sustainability tie-ins. Possibly we'll be getting a new one even. And so the Climate Action Division has lots of public education and messaging that they think they could loop in if we move forward. And then we would have space for up to 3 additional artworks that you could designate for this plot and designate for this pilot. And I think there's like a ton of ideas. I mean, we'd all could look at an art piece and have a different idea. So I'd be open to any suggestions if you did want to move forward. So how it works is Hello Lamppost will provide kind of the guidance and best practices. They, let you know what really how much information you should have, what types of routes you should have, just because they have experience of like how long someone engages with the tool and what keeps their attention. They would fully generate and operate the chat function. So, we don't have to write specific conversations. We basically just create a knowledge base that draws from. They can also design all the signage and materials for us, so they can work with our communications office if we have specific branding, but we wouldn't have to get that created separately, so there's no additional cost there. And then, of course, they provide comprehensive data. So our role would really be just creating that knowledge base and then working with Hello Lamppost to figure out what the prompts are that make sense. And when I say prompts, that's those things like find artwork nearby, learn about this piece, those kinds of things. I have worked this through with the city attorney's office. They've reviewed and believe the project would be in compliance with all artist rights laws. Like I said, we would not want to do any unauthorized personification. All the data and chats are anonymous. You can't, so even when we get the data back, you can trace it to, Rachel texted this, of course. It is a third-party platform, so it's all housed on their platform as well. So that means your chats aren't subject to public records, so users wouldn't have to worry about that. And then the function itself is mostly logic based on the knowledge base we provide, but it does use some AI elements too. And so I can share this article with you too, but Hello Lamppost explains how they approach and use that in a way that they believe is more ethical and sustainable. So some of the data that it can provide us is, how many users engage, how long are they engaging in these conversations, where or when do they start it, and then what are they interested in engaging. So ideally, after the end of this pilot or, at certain check-ins, we could look and see, okay, no one is ever asking for art nearby, so we don't need to offer that anymore, pour any more attention into that. But lots of people are, providing feedback. So we can just use whatever routes people are taking to better understand what they want out of their public art. And then I could also report on at that time just any anecdotal feedback we get from people, media coverage, that kind of thing, and also what type of a workload it has been for staff. Long term, looking at it, I think, this 3 to 5 piece artwork seems very reasonable. It's what Hello Lamppost recommends as a good thing to start with. But in the future, if you like it, if it's successful, we want to keep going, there's a lot of different ways you could go. You could expand it to all of the artworks that we have. You could curate certain collections like the Literary Walk, Sculptor Showcase. Certainly, we would want to link it to our map. So if we have a new map through Public Art Archive, even better. You can do scavenger hunts through it, and you can, this shown on the screen is an example of, while you couldn't personify an existing piece of art without the artist's authorization, we could create or commission one that is unique and intended for this purpose. And so that could be the guide to Iowa City art. So I know I went through that really fast because we were running out of time. And if we don't have time to discuss today, we can push it to next month. It's not like we have to move forward with the spring timeline. So,
well, this my question is, I think it sounds like it's quicker up and going than the Public Art Archive will be because of the issues with redesigning. So that seems like a real positive. But my question is then, if we eventually have both of these, will they be able to be merged? Will we be able to put a link to Hello Lamppost on the Public Art Archive site? So that it's not two separate things, that there could be some navigation between them.
Yeah, the interaction from Hello Lamppost to the public art map makes more sense in my head because, you could have that as an option. Or if they say, do you want to see Dorothy 2 blocks away, then it can provide walking directions to that. The interaction from the Public Art Archive map to Hello Lamppost, I don't quite know maybe how the person would use that, but they
Or if it could be on that site.
Yeah, I think you
is
can.
it,
I think you could
would you
put
like to
whatever
interact with our Hello Lamppost,
information you want on that site.
Because they're different, but yet there's a similarity in what they're providing users.
You could also have it as you're walking around, you would then see the Hello Lamppost posts, not that they're actually tied together, but the one would lead you to the other one, then you'd find the information out without actually having them linked, if that is an issue with the two sites communicating.
Yeah, and
Make it so
also if you were coming to town and you had come upon the other site,
Yeah.
it might notify you to look for that, you know.
That makes sense, yeah.
In terms of what we choose to use it with, I think if we're picking 3 to 5 things to start, we might want them to be consistent things. Because, like, we pick 5 bronze sculptures, or we do the literary walk, or we do all murals, or whatever it is, just because people will then look for the tag by everything. If it's like one mural, Irving Weber, and another mural and the 4th thing, or however we do it. It worked well with the bunnies because it was very, like, each bunny had the code next to it. And it was clear cut what you could interact with and what you couldn't. That was my only thing with selecting. If we're going to select a small subset, maybe it's a consistent thing.
But it would also give us, for information gaining, it might give us a clue into which ones are getting activated more and, used
I think
more.
a good byproduct of that would be then more people are engaging with the art publicly by looking for those little QR codes, even if it's not there. That's a good thing because they're going to be looking at everything deeper and engaging deeper in that art, even if there's nothing to see.
So are the QR codes permanent? Is it something where once we've set it up with this art piece, it's always going to be there? Or is it we feature just a few and it kind of rotates? Like, how does that work?
Well, I think that's, it would depend on how the pilot goes, I guess. Right now it's intended to be temporary, right? We want to test it for a while, but the prompt, so this is what we have to figure out with Hello Lamppost and why they recommended we start smaller, is the prompt can be unique to each artwork, which would be probably unmanageable if we were to do all 75 of our artworks, or it can be the same across all of them or most of them, and then you would have to just set up those routes a little. It would require more on the end user. So if you're always texting public art, then Hello Lamppost is first going to have to ask you, okay, what artwork are you at? Because it can't tell that, right? So, whereas if you had just, Irving Weber, then it would know where you're at. So to answer your question the long way, I think you kind of have to just start and see. I don't know. But you could create it and intend for it to be permanent. What Hello Lamppost suggested was, like in the case of Irving Weber, if you as a resident go do that, you probably are never going to do that again. So you just have to think about it a little bit from that aspect too. Like, who's your audience? Is it the community? Is it visitors? Is it both? And just try to compromise.
But through the students, we do have a community, and people are always curious about that statue. So, and who that is. And so I think that would be a real benefit for many of the pieces that people might want to know more information about.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing a pilot study from spring to the fall.
Yeah.
Is there a cost?
There's not a cost. It's paid for out of another city department. So we're just using one of the routes, basically, at this time.
Yeah, I think the information would be super beneficial, and we can track. They can track the hits for different pieces, right? Because I think that would be very informative.
Yeah, it would have to ask like where you're at. Mm-hmm.
Do we need a motion, or can we just
Well, maybe
say we think it's
I would like a little more direction, unless you want me to just choose different artworks. Could we have like a small working committee or something to have a couple people who
Sure. Would people
could take a
wanna-
closer look at our inventory and suggest.
Any that they feel that would really benefit from this?
I mean, I think Weber's a good starting point for sure, just because that's so iconic. And then maybe like a mile radius around there.
Well, and also because the public library's already volunteered to help assist us, and that's really great, I think. And so there were sort of two that really were sort of the anchor points, and then it was really the other 3 because we would
Up
have
to 3. I mean, we could just do one more. And to your exchange where, do you prefer I focus on 3 similar pieces, like 3 bronzes, or 3 different pieces, or 3 to 5 different pieces? Any sort of direction on that would be very helpful.
I mean, I think personally doing the most to start out would be great. You might as well go for 5 very diverse pieces and then see what's hitting and see what people are actually engaging with. You got like the big blocks outside of Hampshire versus Weber. It's just very different pieces all around, and see if people are just looking at it from the sidewalk or actually getting up close and engaging with it. And everybody could, I don't know, pick your favorite piece of public art and we'll see what we all agree on and put a sign outside of that, We'll all compile your top 5 list. We'll see where we all agree.
Is the idea to spread it out throughout the city? Or I guess, I don't know why in my head I was picturing like they'd all have to be physically close, but I guess they wouldn't if it's a QR code.
I think it'd be sort of the downtown area, right?
I think for the pilot, I would prefer,
pilot.
yes, just keep it focused on the downtown, but certainly like Sculptor Showcase would make a ton of sense to do this for in the future if you wanted to.
If we did the literary walk, would it just be one QR code?
It would be. I will say Hello Lamppost asked that we do not start with the literary walk
Okay.
because they believe that
Okay.
would be very complex.
Because people are curious
And we
about
want to
that
build up to
too,
it. I know.
what that is. So I was like, oh, could we? Okay. I thought the ones I don't know, Dorothy. I'm so sorry, but the other ones sounded really great.
If this was open, you'd see it. Sorry about the parking ramp here. The wire mesh cyclone.
Oh yes, okay, yes, I do know that piece. Okay, I didn't know its name.
Yeah.
Well, let me know if you have suggestions, but otherwise, if you want me to move forward, then I will do that and just report back at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's great. Thank you so much. And that. So staff updates?
Okay, I'll go super fast. Our public art matching grants are in. I think we have about 10, so I'll be sending those out to you. How I typically do it is individual scoring first. You'll send that just to me. I anonymize it, and then we have the big conversation at the April meeting to make funding awards. The call for artists for the Senior Center Gallery is also out right now. That's due March 16th, and then Anita was designated as the person on that review committee. And what else?
Other people. No.
Yes, with others.
Yeah.
And then our maintenance, some maintenance updates. I'm having Dave Dennis prepare some quotes on a couple more maintenance projects, and so we can discuss that next month. And then the bronze sculpture training has finally been scheduled tentatively, weather permitting. That'll take place between July 7th and 9th. That's all I have for updates.
Is there,
The bylaws are on this next council meeting.
Yeah, thank you. And the upcoming, so next Tuesday's city council meeting will have the bylaw amendment to add the ex officio seat from the University of Iowa.
great. And then, so in April, we'll be doing the public art matching grant funding awards and the review of the public art condition assessment and proposed maintenance projects. And then May is the budget, and June is the sculptors showcase. And so if other people have ideas, you should forward those to Rachel if you have other things that you want to bring before the committee. So I think that was the older new business, right? So is there a movement to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Forgot.
All those opposed?
It's like 5 o'clock. I'm like, it's such a hurry.
I guess
Sorry to keep you guys a long time.
Thank you, Rachel. This was I feel like we got a lot of work done.